gentlemen, welcome aboard the Athletics Can't Wait Jets podcast, your nonstop shop for all things Jets. Now here are your hosts, Tim McMaster and Connor Hughes. Listen safely.
Can't wait.
Happy Friday, everybody. Hopefully you've shoveled yourself out from the snow across the tri-state area. We have a fun show lined up if you just want to stay in, out of the snow, get yourself some hot cocoa going on this week. We have forced Dan Orlovsky to relive his 0-16 season with the Detroit Lions. He's going to join the show, of course. He'll also talk about Sam Darnold and Trevor Lawrence as well. We're also filling out the Jets wish list. Today is the final night of Hanukkah. Christmas coming up next week. So we're talking.
Hanukkah was yesterday, Tim.
How was it? Are you going to edit this for me for the actual podcast?
Uh-huh.
Hanukkah ended last night. Christmas is coming up next week. So we will celebrate that with a Jets wish list. Tim McMaster here along with Connor Hughes and Marissa Morris. Please subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast. Give us a 5-star review if you can do that as well. I was all set to talk about the fact that Connor was missing out on this fantastic West Coast vacation this year with the Jets playing Seattle and then LA. But then it was brought to my attention really not long before we started the podcast that we have some breaking news. I think an investigation is actually underway in Connor's fish tank. What is going on there, Connor?
For a second, I was like, dude, you're catching what breaking news? That was a good transition because you got me. I was like, I'm totally getting caught with my pants down right now. What happened in Jets world? Yeah, my freaking snail died. My snail inadvertently killed itself. This was very upsetting. And I've had like, the adventures of this fish tank that you see behind me are quite amazing. Like the one time I told you guys about how I was cleaning it and I took one of the ornaments out and didn't realize that one of the shrimp that I have was in it until I went and I looked on the floor. I was like, that's a weird looking leaf. Hold on, Marissa, this is my mic is wrong. Yep, it is. Hey.
Marissa, you can just tell me. Like you can just say, you don't got to text me. There we go. It should be better now.
Yes, you sound better.
We're off to it.
Yeah, definitely. Everything's, but yeah, because now you guys sound better too. But yeah, so I don't know what happened to my headphones, but suddenly everything's better. Yeah, so like I looked on the ground, I was like, that's a funky looking leaf. And then I looked down, I was like, oh my God, that's not a leaf, that's a shrimp. And I went to go pick them up. And what I didn't know is that shrimp jump. Didn't know that until I went to go pick it up and suddenly it starts leaping around. So today's latest adventure in fish tank land is that I went and I looked at my filter, the one filter on the right, and there was like very little water coming out of the filter. So it kind of looks like a wave that like it sucks the water in, it filters it, and then it sends it back out. And it was like all kind of clean. So I was like, oh, there must just be like these leaves from the plants that are kind of like stuck to the filter sucker. And that's, I guess, got to clean it out. So I take the thing out, I'm rinsing it out, put it back in, nothing happens. I'm like, what the hell? All of a sudden I look, somehow a snail crawled in the filter, down into the filter, then in the tube of the filter sucker and got itself stuck and died. And it's just dead in there. And I was like, it honestly caused me to jump because when I pulled it out, I was like, man, this filter, this is like a piece of, it's kind of heavier than I thought. And I look down, I see the snail in there. And obviously like, I don't do dead well. Like I don't, it's not my thing. I don't handle it well. I don't do it. Like, so like when Bree and I find bugs in the house, the bugs don't die. The bugs are caught and let outside. If there's a stink bug, the stink bug is caught and put outside. If there's a spider caught and put outside, I just don't kill things. So I'm looking, I was like, oh my God, I got to save it. So I'm like trying to stick like a paper clip in there to plug it out. It doesn't work. Eventually I had to like pound it on my hand to get the force to shoot the snail out because he was like really jam-packed in there. And unfortunately, when I came out, he was all shriveled up on the inside and snail is no longer with us. So that was a very sad beginning of my day is that my snail's dead. One of my snails died. There's only three left now. I think there's only three snails left. I'm not getting my monitor today either, which was supposed to be delivered. The snow delayed that. So that's a double whammy. But yeah, very, very sad times in the Hughes household. We had a snail death, RIP.
And just think, you could have spent the week driving down the West Coast Highway, right? From Seattle to LA, but instead it snowed. I don't know how much you got in New Jersey. We got about 10 inches here in the city.
You did?
But you know, your grand plan, which I think we talked about in the off season when the schedule came out, was like, you were going to stay out there. It was going to be great. The Jets didn't do that either though, in this current world, right? It's back and forth and back again. I mean, we haven't talked a ton about games leading into them this season for obvious reasons, but it's an extra layer of difficulty for this team this week as they try to avoid 0-14, that it's straight back to the West Coast.
Yeah, you weren't kidding, man. I mean, that is definitely something that was a little upsetting in that like, here's the thing is that I don't know how much fans realize, but the future schedule of when opponents and what opponents the Jets are going to play are all available online. Like, you go future opponents and then PSL, and it shows you all of the road games that the Jets are going to play. And like, so as reporters, I look at that all the time because that's where I'm going to be traveling each year. So like, you can pick out, oh, this is going to be good road games. So I think I've said this. I joined the beat full time in 2016. I've had this season, Andy Vasquez, myself, Daryl Slater, we've had this season circled the whole time. And when I tell you that, like, I've been looking at seeing LA, Seattle, and being like, are the Jets going to stay on the West Coast for years, to the point where last year, towards like the end of the season, Gase was over, like, kind of BSing on the sideline. And I was like, so like next year, man, like you guys have those LA trips. Like, if they're sandwiched, you're probably going to stay out there. Right. And he looked at me, he was like, I'm not thinking about next year's LA schedule, Connor. And I was like, fuck. It's like, damn it. Like, you're right. But like that's to know. And then of course, like this year was when we were talking to him. I think, I don't know if there's a press conference or off the record, whatever he said. He goes, yeah, we were supposed to be out there. We were going to stay the extra week, which obviously if the Jets stay the extra week, the reporters go and stay an extra week. You got a week in sunny LA in the middle of December to play so much golf. Oh, I'm going to cry now. I want to cry already. It's going to be rough. But yeah, no, I think it is pretty wild. The whole, like you kind of mentioned it, the flying back and forth, because imagine that, man. It's basically a 6-hour flight there, a 6-hour flight back, then a 6-hour flight the way. So you're talking about 18 hours on a plane. If my elementary multiplication is correct with 6 times 3, you're talking about 18. Marissa, by the way, is running the numbers. I just saw her eyes go up on top of her head. Like,
I can do that one in my head. I was a journalism major, but I think I could do 6 times 3 in my head.
You were just making sure anything I said. She's like, Connor said 6 times 3 is 18. That's the reason to get out the calculator. We're gonna have to check this one. But yeah, it's. I mean, they were gonna be a little slow. I mean, that's something notable. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever spent 18 hours on a plane within 7 days, but I got to imagine it's freaking miserable.
Yeah, MLB playoffs. I've done that sort of thing. It's pretty brutal. Yeah, so they'll get through it. All right, so we're going to get to Dan Orlovsky in a little bit. He was awesome. We interviewed him earlier. We're going to play back that. A lot of good stuff from him. Just great insight into this team and the future and the quarterbacks. But before we get to that, let's do the free agent wish list. And Connor, you have a story out on The Athletic right now where you break this down position by position. I thought we'd put a wrinkle into this and kind of mold it for the holidays in a different way. So when you think about holiday gifts, you have different categories. So we're going to go by that. The first one, which always makes me crack up because I've never met anybody that's lived this experience, but you see it on television year after year where, mom heads out to the driveway Christmas morning and there's a brand new Mercedes with a bow on it. I don't know where that happens, but apparently I
literally just said this to Bree last night, by the way. I said I want a car.
Right.
This is literally a conversation we just had.
So that's one category, right? The Mercedes in the driveway category of free agents for the Jets. Then we'll go with the useful, which is the gifts that, they're no fun, but it's like, oh, you know what? That's going to be super helpful. Then we have fun toys and stocking stuffers to finish things off. So let's start with the Mercedes in the driveway. Gets people excited. Allen Robinson, number 1 receiver for whoever's playing quarterback for the Jets next year.
Yeah. And I've watched a lot of Bears football for whatever reason. I don't know why. I just feel like I've caught a lot of their games. I don't know if it's whether it's been the primetime games or just Red Zone channel. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I've seen more Bears football than I care to and more Bears football than I probably should within this last season. I can't stress how good Allen Robinson is. I have absolutely no idea why the Bears haven't paid this guy yet. I mean, he plays a position that is so diva oriented. He plays the position that is so look at me, let me celebrate, the quote unquote, throw me the damn ball, unquote, to steal a line from Keyshawn Johnson. I mean, that is what the receiver position has been. It feels like it's been that way since I guess you can go back to Keyshawn, and then you can talk about Terrell Owens and Randy Moss. Then you go into the Antonio Brown days and Chad Ochocinco/Johnson. I mean, it's always been that way. And Allen Robinson is just a dude who goes out there and works. He's just a guy that goes out there and does his job. And there is so much to absolutely love about this guy. He's still young, 27 years old. He's got really good size at 6'2", 220. If you've watched any Bears games, you know this guy has tremendous hands and is an elite level route runner. I mean, the grab that he makes looks easy are out of this world. And then you talk about productivity, because you talk about receivers, right? Like sometimes they check all the boxes with size and youth, but they don't necessarily have the production, or they have the production, but they're too old, or they have the production, but they're kind of like the crazy divas like I was talking about. Not only does Robinson have the size and athleticism, not only does he have the good hands and route running, not only is he young, not only is he not a diva, but he is so ridiculously productive. 2015, and with terrible quarterback play, 2015 playing with Blake Bortles, who was absolute dog poo, 80 catches, 1,400 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Decides to sign with the Chicago Bears, where he's paired with another steaming, in Mitch Trubisky. Last year, Mitch Trubisky last year, because his first 2 years in Chicago, he was a little banged up and hurt. Last year, 98 catches, 1,100 yards, and 7 touchdowns, with Trubisky playing horrific football. This year, again, horrid quarterback play with Trubisky, horrid quarterback play with Nick Foles, 86 for 1,027 and 6 touchdowns already entering this season. You are talking about a guy in Allen Robinson that if you get him in this roster, you've got a good leader in the locker room. You've got a guy that is so hungry to win. You have a non-diva, and you have a just weapon for a young quarterback. Because when the Jets draft Trevor Lawrence, when they draft Justin Fields, when they find their next quarterback that isn't Sam Darnold, you want to make his life easy. I know that's an alien concept and seems crazy considering what the Jets have done for Darnold the last 3 years, but you want to make his job easy. Allen Robinson is like the Mr. Fix-It for any offense, because his catch radius is out of this world, where you don't have to throw the perfect ball in order for him to make the catch. I have no idea what's going on outside my door. Like, people are hammering on their horns like I live with Tim in Manhattan. But, they're fighting. I should get play-by-play of this. Like, there's like, ooh, that's juicy. Bree just ran outside. I just heard Bree run down the hallway to see what's going on. But I was like, they're fighting outside. You think I live in Camden? Like, geez. So they had like he's a Mr. Fix-It. Like, that's what Allen Robinson is. Allen Robinson's a Mr. Fix-It weapon, because you don't have to make the perfect throw for him to make the ball. As long as it's in his area, he's going to make the catch, because he has this ridiculous catch radius to fall down, diving. Like, watch his highlights this year. They're unreal. He has the route running to create the separation. And again, because of his personality, he's not a quote unquote throw me the damn ball type player. So if Lawrence is going through his progressions, he's not going to take the field and be like, I have to get Allen his touches, or he's going to go crazy. I have to get him the ball. He's the guy that if he is somehow a free agent and the Bears don't find him, the Jets should, and I don't usually say this, the Jets should, whatever the offer is out there, add like $3 million to it. Just make sure whatever you have to do to get him to Florham Park, to get him as a weapon for Trevor Lawrence, whatever you got to do, you do it, because he's a difference maker, man. And I've seen what he can do, and he would just be so perfect. And you talk about him outside, Denzel Mims on the other side, and Jamison Crowder in the slot. And then if somehow Chris Herndon can find that, I'm no longer with Adam Gase like boost that everyone seems to get after a year, that offensive weapons, that's a legit receiving core for any quarterback, let alone a rookie, to develop and amplify his play.
So he'd be like the Lexus or Mercedes in the driveway. If you were going to get like a Volkswagen in the driveway, or another great car in the driveway for Christmas, that's fantastic. We're excited. I guess the backups would be Kenny Galladay and Juju Smith-Schuster, but Robinson he's the guy. All right, moving on to useful gifts. Now, useful gifts doesn't mean inexpensive gifts. Like, you get somebody a blender for Christmas, it could be a very expensive blender. So when we're talking about useful players for the Jets, you think offensive line, right? And Joe Thuney is a guy who they probably got to break the bank a little bit there too.
Who in the McMaster household is getting a blender?
No,
I think you're trying to see.
I would never.
I love my Ninja blender. It's very good.
I have the Ninja.
Yeah. But did it get you as excited as a car would?
Marissa? No, definitely not. But I've never gotten a car for Christmas, so I don't know what that feels like either. But
is Michael in the corner? Are you giving a little wink, 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 nod, nod? I've
I
never
like my
gotten a
car.
car, Michael.
I like my car.
What do you drive?
Oh,
What do you
Hyundai
drive?
Sonata. Hyundai Sonata.
Oh, Bree's got an Elantra. Bree drives.
You
an Elantra. I
posted
love an Elantra
the interior of Marissa's car on
Yeah.
Twitter last week. So
Oh, that's right. I did. For a second, I was like, what the hell is that in Marissa's car? I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Oh, yeah, that's right. When we FaceTimed her. Real quick before we go on to Thuney, because I agree 100%. But you mentioned Juju as like the backup receiver thing. I like Kenny Galladay. I don't think Kenny Galladay is going to be. I don't think he hits free agency. I don't think Kenny Galladay. Corey Davis, I like a lot from the Titans. But Juju, there's something about him that earlier this year I was like, go get Juju. Like, he's great. I'm pulling back a little bit on that one. And I just think that there's some maturity issues with Juju. Obviously, you see, like, he's so obsessed with like the TikTok now, like where he's doing the dancing at midfield. And I know he had that one wildly productive season with the Steelers when he was with Antonio Brown. He was hurt the next year. He hasn't been amazing this year. I mean, I think he's going to get a ridiculous amount of money. And the other thing with the Steelers is that very rarely does Pittsburgh let top tier guys go. They do everything in their power to keep the guys that they know are going to make a difference. Like, that's why Mike Wallace had so many great years with the Steelers. They had no problem letting him go. Le'Veon Bell, they got everything cut out of him, let him go. Antonio Brown traded him away. Like, a lot of times when people leave Pittsburgh, they're not necessarily better when they leave as when they were in Pittsburgh. And Juju would be one that I know he's the name. I know, the USC connection with Darnold was a big thing that I personally talked about before. I know people are like, oh, Juju. He's one that I would honestly stay away from unless the cost was perfect. I would put Allen Robinson above him, Kenny Galladay above him, and even Corey Davis above him. Juju is just one that would scare me quite a bit. You mentioned Thuney, though, as like another one, as a blender. And I think that he would absolutely,
shake things up.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Golf club. Well done. He is like, look, the Jet, I can't stress this enough. And I know this firsthand. The Jets were willing to back up the Brinks truck for Joe last year. Like, if Joe was in free agency, he was the Jets' number one target. Conklin, who the Browns ended up signing, was a guy, the Jets are going to target him. Jets had discussions, weren't willing to go overboard on a deal. Graham Glasgow, who ended up, I forget where he ended up signing, a guy who the Jets were interested, not willing to back up the Brinks truck. Thuney is a guy they're willing to, they want to go get him. I mean, he is, you think about him, he's the perfect Joe Douglas player. I mean, if Joe sat down and went with his notebook and was like, all right, here's my ideal guy. Bang, 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 bang. Thuney checks all the boxes. I mean, he is ridiculously reliable. I mean, I think the guy's missed like one game in his career. He's absurd. He was drafted by the Patriots. They said you're a starter, and he's basically been a starter ever since. He's coming from a winning culture in New England. I mean, all that team does is win. That team got rid of the best quarterback to ever play. And they're still, I mean, they're not obviously anywhere near as good as they were, but they are in the playoff discussion. He's a winner. He's versatile with his ability to play left guard, right guard, and center. And I think the only thing he can't really play is tackle. But again, you have a guy who can play everything on the inside. Reliable, versatile, comes from a winning culture, and just a good football player. I mean, he is somebody that Douglas wants. And if he is there in free agent, look, and the other thing too is the Patriots knew the Jets were willing to go out and get Thuney. They also knew that if Thuney didn't sign with the Jets, he was going to go sign with the Dolphins. So what did Bill Belichick do? He's like, all right, well, I don't want the two teams in the division to get any better. So I'm going to slap him with the franchise tag. We've got the funds to do it because Tom Brady is leaving. We've got the money that it's not going to hurt us for what we want to do. So I'll hit him with the franchise tag and I'll keep him here. That way the Dolphins don't get better. The Dolphins had to go sign Eric Flowers to a ridiculous contract in order to plug it. And the Jets pivoted to Greg Van Roten. So the Patriots kind of did what Bill Belichick does. And he gave him they tagged him. He wasn't able to get out there, but the expectation from what I've heard is that that's not going to happen this year. There's no thought that he's going to get franchise tagged. The belief is that he will be in free agency this year. He's obviously going to have a ton of suitors because he's a hell of a player, but he is the guy that Douglas wants. Like, he's the guy that if he's there, I would fully expect Joe Douglas to go out there and make every effort to sign this guy. Again, reliable, productive, versatile, and the guy knows how to win.
And in your story, you have some other guys that fit into that, not quite at Thuney's level, but other guys below that. So people should check that out as well. All right, next category is fun toys, right? So I guess like PS5 for the holidays, that sort of thing. Maybe a new phone. I don't know. But in this category, I've put basically the edge pass rusher, right? The guy that isn't necessarily the standard that you need to turn around a franchise and start winning again. But boy, it's nice to have it. Bud Dupree, Matt Judon kind of fit into that spot.
Yeah, and Judon's another one. He's a Joe Douglas type player. I mean, he's not the sexy sack guy. I mean, he's never had more than 10 sacks in a season, and barring something ridiculous these final 3 weeks, he's not going to have 10 sacks again this year. But he's just productive. He's a good player. He's like Judon to me is like a rich man's Jordan Jenkins, like he's that kind of a player where he's going to be stout against the run. He's going to get sacks. He's going to be around the ball a lot. And he's somebody you want in the locker room. And he's somebody that I know, again, the Jets were interested in if he was going to hit free agency. The Ravens hit him with the franchise tag. Judon's probably going to hit free agency this year because of the fact the Ravens traded for Yannick Njoku, and they obviously are going to have to pay one of them. And if you're going to give up the picks that they gave up to go get Yannick, you're probably not going to pay Judon. So Judon's going to hit free agency, and he's somebody that the Jets go out there and get. I don't think he's going to command. I think, what does he have this year? It's like four something. I think he only has like 4 sacks this season. I mean, it's nothing absurd. He's got 20 and a half in his last 43 games. So he's one of those like productive down year this year. He's not going to cost what Bud Dupree would. He would be somebody that I would keep an eye on, though, just because I think he's, again, another Joe Douglas guy where he's versatile, he's reliable, and he comes from a winning organization. And he's also somebody that Joe Douglas knows from being over there, and Chad Alexander knows from being in that Ravens organization. Dupree, you said that Dupree would be like the true pass rusher. Like that's what Dupree is. He's not. Judon's more of like your good defender outside. He's going to play the run. Dupree's more of like, he's the guy who can get the double-digit sacks. He'll be the guy who can get 12, 13, 14 sacks a season. And I think he would be a decent pick for the Jets to go out there and get him. I mean, he had 11 and a half sacks in 2019. He has 8 and 11 games this year. Now, I'm sure he benefits from playing on the other side of TJ Watt. Now, with Dupree, I think there's a chance he hits free agency because there's a lot of mouths to feed on that Steelers roster right now. I mean, they've got a lot of guys that have reached the point where their contracts are up and need to get paid, namely Watt. Like Watt's up for his contract. I think they just paid Hargraves, right? I know he's another guy that was up. I'm pretty sure they ended up paying him. So I don't know what the Steelers' financial situation is going to be. If they move on from Ben Roethlisberger or Roethlisberger retires, that obviously can free up a ton of money because they'll be able to draft a quarterback or trade for Sam or something like that, and they'd be able to get him there. But if they ride with Roethlisberger again, if they've got to pay Watt, I don't know how you pay Watt and Dupree. So if he hits free agency, he's an option. The other one, honestly, that I would not sleep on in any way, shape, or form, Hassan Reddick, the Cardinal. I mean, I know anyone who watched the Giants game last week saw the guy had, what was it, like 4 sacks or some crazy number like that and 3 forced fumbles, defensive rookie of the year. He's a guy that when he was coming out of Temple, I actually remember interviewing him because when he was drafted was the year that the NFL draft was held in Philadelphia. And so the NFL draft every year does this Play 60 event where all of the players at the draft location like go and they like visit a children's hospital or something like that. For this one, they went to CHOP. And I went there as a media. And the cool thing about the media aspect of that event is you get to talk to all these guys. And I remember talking to Reddick and just coming away and being like, that dude's wildly impressive. Like just as a person, like the way he spoke, the way that he was describing his time in college, how he evolved as a person. I was like, man, that guy is something. You know what I mean? Like that's an impressive player. When the Cardinals drafted him, I was like, I kind of want to follow his career. His biggest issue is that he's been inside linebacker, outside linebacker, 43 outside linebacker, inside linebacker. Then he's been out here. He's been like, they haven't ever played him in his position. And so the first 3-4 years of his career, he wasn't very productive. This year is kind of like a last ditch. Okay, we're not picking up your 5th year option. We're going to see what we're going to move him to outside linebacker and see what he does. When he was coming out of Temple, that was what he was supposed to play in the NFL. He was supposed to be a 34 outside linebacker. He's got 10 sacks this season already. Like first year as an outside linebacker, 10 sacks tearing the cover off the ball. I mean, the guy can play when he's allowed to rush the passer. He's kind of like that. I honestly, when I look at Hassan Reddick, I think he would be the perfect player next to Quinnen Williams. Like, that's where you have Quinnen Williams, who's a 34 defensive end, eating up blocks, just fighting through, physical guy. You put Reddick next to him, and you got to pick your poison, and you can't pick both. And if he hits free agency, I think the Jets should absolutely pursue him because he's not going to cost as much as Dupree would. He's absolutely not going to cost as much as Judon would. And I think he would actually give the Jets more of the player that they need. Still young, more of a speed rusher, would be a perfect complement to Quinnen Williams. And he would be the guy that honestly I would go out there at the edge rushing position. Now, where I view him is in similar light to what Shaq Barrett was for the Buccaneers last year, where he enjoys that breakout season and then he gets hit with the franchise tag. So I don't know if Reddick's actually going to be there, but if Reddick is, I would actually prefer him over both Dupree and Judon.
All right, and then finally, the stocking stuffers. These are the guys that they're not going to break the bank, not going to be super expensive, but you need to fill out the roster with them for some important positions. I'm going to go with from your article, Connor, from some different positions. Marlon Mack as a running back kind of fits here. Trey Burton at tight end. Troy Hill at cornerback. These are all going to be kind of needs for this team, especially cornerback probably. But these aren't guys that are going to bring top dollar from your what the space that the Jets have to spend.
Yeah, the corner position that you kind of mentioned was. It stinks for the Jets because they obviously have a dire need at corner. I mean, I think they kind of like maybe what they have in Bryce Hall, but again, he's a 5th-round pick. What you get. Bless Austin is a serviceable number 2. Maybe if he develops, like he can be a good guy when he's going up against an offense's number 2 receiver. Like that's kind of where Bless is best. Bryce Hall, you just don't really know necessarily what you have with him yet. I mean, you've seen some good, you've seen some bad. He's taken his lumps, but again, he hasn't really played much football because of that injury, so he's still kind of working his way back. They need a corner. They need a starting number 1 corner. There is not a starting number 1 corner in free agency. I mean, you're talking about basically guys that are better in the slot, which I guess the Jets could use if they ended up going and they don't bring back Brian Poole. They're going to need a nickel corner so they can go that route. But there really isn't a like legit outside corner. Like there really isn't. And I think that Bless Austin, or I think that it's tough because I'm looking at them like the free agents that I would see where I'd be like, all right, the Jets, they're going to pay top dollar because they are the best of a weak class. And I don't think any of them are any better than Bless Austin. So honestly, when it comes to corners, I think the Jets' best bet is using a 2nd-round pick or that second first-round pick they have from the Seahawks on a corner because I just don't see it out there. The one player that you mentioned who I love for this team is Marlon Mack. I don't know if the Colts are going to be overly interested in re-signing him because they drafted Jonathan Taylor. They also have Nakeem Hines over there, who's a pretty good player. Marlon Mack's been ridiculously productive during his career. In fact, when the Colts drafted Jonathan Taylor, I was like, what did they have Mack? They got Mack and Hines. What's the issue? I mean, this is a guy who in 2018 and 2019 ran for 1,999 yards and 17 touchdowns and averaged 4.5 yards a carry. He's more of a downhill runner, more of a physical back, but he's somebody who I think would be the ideal complement to you get LaMichael Pirine year 2, you get Marlon Mack, and you draft like a speedier guy in like the middle rounds or late rounds of the draft, and there's your 3-headed rushing attack. The Jets are not going to go the big money free agent signing. They're not going to go get Aaron Jones. They're not going to do that again after they wildly swung and missed with Le'Veon Bell. So I think you want to look at like the 2nd-tier players in the running back to fill out a rotation because they like what they have in Pirine. You get Marlon Mack. That's a great 1-2 punch. The other guy, I wouldn't sleep on James White. Like, again, this entire thing, like this is what the Jets offseason approach needs to be. It needs to be get yourself winners because this team has been marred and losing since the 2016 season. So you've got losing record 2016, losing record 2017, losing record 2018, losing record 2019, potentially 0-16 in 2020. That is 5 years, if my finger counting is correct, of just getting your face pounded in and just losing. So you need guys that know how to win. You need guys that understand how to win. And the way that you get guys that know how to win and get guys that learn how to win and get these things is you have to pluck them from winning cultures. And if you can go get James White, who I know he's going to be a little bit older, he's soon to be 29. He's coming off a down year. He's a tremendous receiving back. And if you can add him, which is the second part of this offseason philosophy, which is make life easy for Trevor Lawrence, you can find a way to get, okay, you sign Marlon Mack, you pair him with LaMichael Pirine, and then you get a really good receiving weapon in James White. That's a really good pairing at the running back position. Then you have at the receiver spot, Allen Robinson or Kenny Galladay with Denzel Mims and Jamison Crowder. And then you get Chris Herndon coming back. You're creating an environment to cultivate the success of a young quarterback. And I think that's what you're trying to work towards. And that's why a lot of these other players we've talked about, Tim, about who they could sign. Joe Thuney, winning organization. Bud Dupree, winning organization. Hassan Reddick, winning organization lately in the Cardinals. Like, get guys that don't know losing because they've never experienced losing and put them in your locker room. And suddenly you can elevate that play and you can create a winning culture, because that's what the Jets have to do. And I like the idea of adding James White, even if he's a little older, and maybe you can get him on a good deal like the Giants when they signed Dion Lewis. Get the receiving weapon in there. Bring in Marlon Mack from the Colts, another winning organization. Get him to pair with Pirine, and then you can get this ball rolling.
All right, well, we have our segment with Dan Orlovsky coming up, but first, a message from DraftKings. It feels like just yesterday that Los Angeles was lifting basketball's most coveted prize. Since then, we have introduced a new class of professional basketball players through the draft and seen a few marquee names switch teams. Lucky for us sports fans, DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is here to kick off the 2021 basketball season with a no-brainer for all customers, new and existing. If you haven't tried DraftKings Sportsbook yet, head over to the App Store now because you don't want to miss this. To celebrate the return of basketball, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving you a plus 75-point spread on the team of your choice on opening night. That's right. All you have to do is bet on any team on opening night. And if your team doesn't lose by more than 75 points, you will double your... Yeah. You should probably just stop watching your team at that point if they lose by 75
I took
points.
the Knicks plus 75 and they... Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if there was a team that was going to do it, it
would be them. Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So if they don't lose by 75 points, you will double your money. This Saturday, there will be an endless amount of action to get in on. So don't wait and head to the app now. DraftKings is safe, reliable, and secure, making it easy for you to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code QUICK when you sign up to get a plus 75-point spread on opening night for a shot to double your money. That's code QUICK to get a shot at doubling your money on opening night for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It can be awkward or embarrassing to talk about erectile dysfunction. Usually people brush it off or blame themselves, but Roman is here to get you the advice you want and the help you need with no shame. With Roman, you can get a free online evaluation and ongoing care for ED, all from the comfort and privacy of your home. A healthcare professional will work with you to find the best treatment plan if medication is appropriate. Roman will ship you real medicine with free 2-day shipping. The whole process is straightforward, simple, and discreet. Getting started is simple. Just go to GetRoman.com/wait and complete an online visit. ED used to be tough to talk about, but now there's Roman. Complete an online visit today to connect with a doctor and take care of it. Just go to GetRoman.com/wait for $15 off your first order of ED treatment, a free online visit, and free 2-day shipping. That's GetRoman.com/wait for $15 off your first order of ED treatment. GetRoman.com/wait.
All right, and now we have our segment with Dan Orlovsky. 1 second.
And we are joined now by our special guest today, Dan Orlovsky, of course, former NFL quarterback, current ESPN NFL analyst, and a member of the 2008 Detroit Lions, one of those teams that has gone 0-16 before this Jets team. We're going to get to a lot of stuff with Dan, including Sam Darnold's progression and that sort of thing. But I'll start here, Dan. You've been through the 0-16 season, the Jets 0-13 right now. Do you see any similarities between that team that you were on the inside of and this one that you're viewing from the outside?
Oh, man, how much time we got? Yeah. I think that, like one of the things that stood out actually after I left Detroit in that experience was, you look back and you go like, how did that happen? Like, why did it ever get to that place? And, what I realized was there was a run probably over the course of 6 or so years of just bad drafts, just drafts that didn't really hit, especially on those early picks, and it just kind of beat up our organization. The second, third round picks never panned out. And so all of a sudden that spoke to like just the lack of the overall talent that was on our team. I remember the year after that, so 2009, there was one guy that was on our defense that was in the NFL left, you know? So like, we're talking everybody was not playing football the year after. And so, you know, I think that's something if you watch the Jets, there is a lack of talent just because over and I'm not talking Joe Douglas, but the years of, you know, missing on draft picks that have stood out. I think that we were, I think our coaches tried. I don't think we were well coached. You know, I think that they did the best that they could and their effort was there. We just weren't very well coached. And then the inability to close games, you know, we just didn't have the guy, you know, the person to close a football game for some point. And at some point, and it seems like the Jets are like that as well a little bit. Like they're just looking for a guy to be the closer and they just don't have that person. You know, and I'm at the end of the day, like you look at the schedule and you go, where's the win going to come from? I remember looking at the schedule being like, all right, you know, where's it going to happen? You know, because you start thinking about it as players as well. And it becomes who's going to be the person to make the mistake that actually, you know, gives us another loss. And I can't say that the Jets are there, but I would imagine their players are having very similar thoughts.
Yeah, so I was going to ask Dan too, is that you kind of mentioned, you know, the losses start piling up. Where's there going to be a win? I mean, for fans that are watching the Jets right now, they're full steam ahead, eyes focused, Trevor Lawrence. It's tanking, you know, just lose. That's all they want so they can get Trevor Lawrence. When you're a player, though, engulfed in that situation, how do you erase the tanking thought? How do you kind of tune that out when you're going through a season like this where the fans don't want you to win?
Yeah. There's 1,500 jobs like the one that they have in the world. You know, like there's 32 teams and every single thing that you do on a daily basis gets watched by your team. And Joe Douglas is making a determination of, are you worthy of being on our football team in March? Like forget making the roster next year. Are you worthy of me thinking that you should be a part of us moving forward? There's only 32 opportunities, you know? And so, you know, I often said this, like, you got to brainwash yourself, you know, to be like, and take the circumstance out of it and just be like, I got to go do my job as good as I can, not just the performance on the field, but how I handle myself, how I conduct myself, the preparation that I show, you know, like you got to go handle yourself and also realize that, you know, your tape, you guys have all probably heard this, your tape is your resume and there's 31 other teams that are going to watch this tape and to watch how you perform and you never know who is watching. And so you try to, you know, it takes away the theory or the belief that team, and you certainly have that on your mind, but there's also the thought process of like, I got to do as well as I can to make sure that I have the opportunity to play in the NFL next year.
You, Dan, you and I have talked about this. I don't even know how many times over the last 3 years with Sam. I know you've been one of his biggest fans. You were one of the people that to Samini, your coworker over there at ESPN, where you had coined the magical sloppiness term, which I think is kind of like the perfect way to describe some of Sam's wild plays that he makes. And the whole time we've kind of been waiting for like him to take that next step, talking to you about it. When's it going to come? Is it going to come? Is this the year? And I think what's been the most alarming aspect of this season has been how all of the progress that Sam showed as a rookie, especially his final month, the steps forward he took in year 2, they're all kind of gone. You know, like he's taken steps back in not even just statistically, but you watch him play and he looks like a different player for not the right aspect. It's not because he can't play. So when you look at him, what do you think has gone wrong with Sam?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I say this all the time. Playing really good quarterback in the NFL is like making a great movie. You know, like you don't make great movies because there's one actor who does an awesome job, or it's a good script, or the setting is good. Like to make a great movie, it takes great writing and great producing and great directing and an outstanding lead actress performance, and then 5, 6, 7 great supporting cast performances, and the setting's got to be great. And so like the steps back for Sam and kind of where he is right now is like he's trying to make Shawshank Redemption, and all he is Tim Robbins. Like he doesn't have Morgan Freeman, he doesn't have the writing, he doesn't have the Warden, and so I think that I'd say that when you look at Sam right now, you go, are you any better than you came out of USC? And you could probably make the argument that the answer is no, he's status quo. Then you have to ask why. Is it because Sam's physical traits diminished? No. Is it because he's not smart enough to play the position? No. Is it because he never fixed the thing that was a flaw of his, with that panicky type moment 2 times a game? And you could sit here and say, yeah, like Sam hasn't gotten rid of that. Well, again, that leads to another question of why. Well, has he never plays with the lead, so like he's won very little football games. And I try to get people to understand, like, Sam Darnold didn't go to USC because he was lazy. Sam Darnold went to USC because he's a hyper competitive dude, incredibly competitive. And at some point, you just you think to yourself, like, I'm going to do whatever to win a game. And it forces you to make decisions that you normally wouldn't if you weren't under that pressure. And so I'm not trying to take anything, trying to take responsibility away from Sam's performance. I just try to sometimes get people to look at it a little bit differently other than Sam Darnold stinks, and look at how everything that's around him impacts his performance, impacts his decision-making, impacts how good of a player he has been since he's came into the NFL.
I think the one thing that I think about with Sam is that like you said, I mean, the final month of his rookie season, that play didn't go away. I mean, he's still got that somewhere within him, but there have been situations across the NFL, throughout NFL history, where teams, because of how poorly they've either coached their quarterbacks, because of how poorly they've surrounded their quarterbacks with talent, they've kind of broken them in a way where they've done so much damage to them that it's almost been irreparable. I mean, I don't know if it's exactly the same situation, because it was more that he just got the crap beat out of him for so many years in Houston, but it was like David Carr. He was a guy who had a ton of talent, took so many sacks that he just was never the same player when he went to San Francisco and all those other spots. With Sam, have you seen, I don't know how much Jet film you're national right now, so I don't know how much time you're spending breaking down Jets film, but have you seen anything that would make you a little nervous that when Sam does go to another team, when he gets another opportunity, that the damage the Jets have done to him is just almost, they've kind of ruined him?
Yeah, I mean, I just think first of all, I've watched every snap. It's my job for every team. Sometimes the games are like, man, I cannot believe I'm watching this in the fourth quarter with 7 minutes to go. But I've got to do it. I think the treetop view is like, naturally, yes, there's concern because, again, this was a kid that, for all the awesome stuff that he had in his game, he had that, like, those 2 plays a game that you go, okay, how are you going to get rid of that? And he hasn't been put in a position where it's really allowed for that to be kind of it's allowed for that to be driven out of his game, because he's had to play in so much chaos, and he's had to play in so much panic, and he's had to play in so much deficit. And so you go, naturally, you start thinking like, all right, this is 3 years. And I was actually having an in-depth conversation with someone who's really close to Sam 2 days ago, who's going to be a big part of what happens for Sam in the future. And he asked me a couple questions that I found really interesting. He said, what's the number one thing that you think Sam needs to do to attack this offseason? And I said, I don't think it's anything physical. Sam is going to work on things, throwing, feet, all that stuff. I think someone is going to need to spend time with Sam and figure out how much self-doubt has crept in to him as a player, how much belief he still has in his skill sets. Because it's at some point when you're getting beat up and failing the way he has and his team has, those become very, very, very real things. And I think that's going to be an important part for him is, you know, where is he when it comes to thinking, am I still the top 3 pick that I was 3 years ago? I also told him you don't need to find a fit for Sam Darnold. You need to find a place where Sam can go excel. You know, where is he going to excel? And what coaching staff and style, because he's only going to get one more shot likely. So what scheme is going to allow him to excel? And so, you know, I think those are really important things for Sam moving forward. And so I've said this for a long time, you know, probably 2 or 3 years about Sam. Like, I don't think anyone could really gauge what he is and what he can be, you know, because of the situation that he's been placed in. I do know this. The person that I spoke to the other day said he's the most mentally tough kid he's ever been around. And he's been in the business that he's in for 30 years or something. So he's been, or 20 years. So like a very mentally tough kid. And that's going to be needed for him moving forward.
2 more quick ones, Dan. Obviously, I think when you mentioned the right situation, to me, the first one that pops in my head is Pittsburgh. That if Ben Roethlisberger decides to move on, or even if Pittsburgh's just thinking about, all right, let's get someone in here to learn under Ben for a year, and then when Ben retires, he'll take over. I think that'd be a great situation for Sam. Obviously, the Colts are one of the more stable organizations ever since they've had Peyton and things like that. And Frank Wright's a tremendous quarterbacks coach, or a coach of the quarterbacks, obviously their head coach. Do you see any other situations that pop up that you'd be like, you know what, that might be a good fit for Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I think that San Francisco. I think San Francisco is the ideal fit for a lot of quarterbacks that might be on the market. I just know Kyle, and it's such a quarterback-friendly offense. I mean, if you look at some of the offenses that are humming right now in the NFL, they all come from the same tree. You know, like Kyle, Matt LaFleur, Arthur Smith, Kevin Stefanski, like they all come from the same tree. And I'm a big believer in that offense as long as the person calling it, you know, continues to build off of it and add to it. So, you know, I think San Francisco, just because the way they play their offense, Sam's ability to be on the move on a consistent basis, I think that he can make the special throws, but also every quarterback needs the layups. And that's what, you know, Kyle gets and Matt LaFleur gets for a guy like Roger. So I think San Francisco is an ideal situation. 2 young, really, really good receivers. I also believe the Colts, you know, Frank has got such a good mind. If you watch the Colts play, like, tell me the last time we saw a Colts receiver catch a ball standing still. It just doesn't happen. Like, guys are always on the move, always running. And it's I'm a big believer in doing that for a quarterback. I'm not super high on Pittsburgh, to be honest.
Okay.
I think organizationally makes a lot of sense. I just don't love their offense. Like, their offense right now is, hey, quarterback, they don't do any play action pass. Their offensive line's gotten old. It's catch the ball and throw like a slant right now, or we're just going to throw deep balls. And I just don't think that's very friendly to quarterbacks. I don't think it sets them up for success. I'd be fascinated to where Arthur Smith goes if he gets a head coaching opportunity. I think that's a really, really healthy scheme to be a part of. So I think there's going to be some really important options for him. Yeah.
Last one for you, Dan. We've talked about Sam, the current quarterback of the Jets. We just wanted to get your take on the possible future quarterback of the Jets. That is Trevor Lawrence. I don't know how much you've been able to see his, you know, film this year at Clemson, but what are your thoughts on Lawrence and how he'll translate to the NFL?
Yeah, I've called 2 of Trevor's games this year. I called 2 or 3 last year, so I've had him a good fair amount. I've watched all of his snaps this year. He's absolutely incredible. Physically, anything that you want out of your quarterback, he's got. You know, he's a big-time, powerful athlete, powerful arm, you know, kind of the thing that'll blow people away is how big he is. I remember standing next to him in the national championship game last year, and I was like, yo, oh my gosh, this dude's a giant. And just a powerful arm. You know, he's got a great natural throwing motion, accurate thrower of the football, great touch that's developed really from this last year to this year. He's developed touch in the throw, which is awesome. Very bright, understands protections. I sat with him this year and I asked him some questions. And this is where it went like, oh my gosh, this kid for me was, I did the national championship last year and I walked away going, he's got to figure out anticipation. Like he's been so talented, he's so talented that he hasn't really needed it. I used to say this about Matthew Stafford. These guys are just so talented. They don't need anticipation. They got a rocket on their shoulder. And I walked away going, all right, LSU defense, good defense. You got exposed a little bit. Like you got to bring anticipation to your game. So I had him this year and I said, hey, Trevor, like, what did you walk away from the national championship thinking about your game personally? What did you find out about yourself? And this is the answer that blew my mind. He said, I was getting away with things in the season that I knew was going to catch up with me. And it did in that game. And I just was like, dude, for you to be that self-aware and to be that like honest, and the ability and the confidence in yourself to say that kind of really took me back. He was like, I knew I was bouncing in the pocket and that, affected my accuracy. I knew I wasn't trusting my protection and leaving clean pockets. And that allowed that left big plays in the field for offense that I wasn't making. And then I knew I was waiting for receivers to get open instead of trusting what my eyes were telling me. And I was like, in that moment, I was like, dude, I'm so impressed with the intangible things. And so we had a really cool conversation about where his growth has been. And he's been so focused on where he is now and trying to strive to be as good as he can. And he's been so focused on trying to play clean football, not perfect football, but clean football. And he's going to be a special player. Again, we all know asterisk if he handled the right way. But he's a special physical talent, but I think his mental awareness and acumen will be just as impressive.
You're gonna have Jet fans drooling with that one, man. So I gotta ask, like you're all over ESPN. Every time I turn on ESPN, I see you. You're calling college games. You're a husband. You're a father. Do you sleep? Is that something that's worked into it at all?
Yeah, you know what, dude? I'm one of those weird people that really don't like sleep. I don't nap. I always, my father really early on and, kind of hit me with the work ethic thing, and it's been a calling card of mine. And so I think there's a little ego involved in it too. Like I don't want to allow somebody else to figure out something that I wanted to. And so I don't sleep much. Also, my wife and I have 9-year-old triplets. We haven't slept in 10 years. So I don't sleep much, but after the Super Bowl, like I will be gone for an extended period of time, hitting a little white ball somewhere.
Well, Dan, we appreciate in that very busy schedule you chiseling out a little bit of time for us. I know Jets fans will appreciate it too, especially that Trevor Lawrence answer. They will love that. So thanks for taking some time for us here on the Can't Wait podcast.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
All right, this episode is brought to you by 1010. Now you have, let me restart that for the good people at Blue Nile. Thanks to Dan for that interview. This episode is brought to you by 1010. Now you may have read about this in the New York Times or Forbes, and we're excited to tell you about it. 1010 is an exclusive collection of 10 one-of-a-kind engagement rings designed by 10 of the most distinctive designers working today. Using only diamonds responsibly sourced from Botswana, 10 design masters have each produced a uniquely beautiful commitment ring, launching exclusively on January 18th at BlueNile.com. And when they're gone, they're gone. We all know that the diamond engagement ring is iconic. It's a timeless expression of the deepest commitment between two people. And with 1010, it's been beautifully re-envisioned in the hands of 10 modern designers working exclusively with sustainably sourced diamonds. If you're making 2021 plans or looking for a unique and meaningful way to celebrate Valentine's Day, you're definitely going to want to check this out. Again, this is exciting, limited edition collection of diamond engagement rings. It launches on January 18th, and you can preview it exclusively at BlueNile.com. All right, that was really good stuff from Dan Orlovsky, and I actually didn't realize, Connor, how much he had seen Trevor Lawrence, that he's actually done a couple of his games, and we know if you're at the game, you just get such a better look at the quarterback, I think. And he's had these conversations with Lawrence as well over the last couple of years as his progressions have happened. That's what stood out the most to me, was just that kind of insight that we haven't necessarily heard.
Yeah, Dan's the man. I mean, I honestly can't stress that enough. I remember like obviously I knew him when he was a player, like not knew him personally, but from like watching the NFL, covering the NFL, like, you knew who Dan Orlovsky was. Marissa, again, just say
it's the mic. just say it. Just say it. It's easier that way. Like, I'm just like, it's on the second monitor where I can kind of see Marissa just texted me and it pops up there, but just be like, hey dingus, wrong mic. But yeah, no, I think that I remember like coming across Dan, the NFL analyst, when he used to do kind of like what Brian Baldinger would do, which was, like Baldy does like his whole like NFL breakdowns and like this, that, and like, looks at this and he looks at that, and he would do like he would basically hold his cell phone up to like the all 22 and break it down. Dan would do that, but for quarterback play. And the way that, if you've played quarterback before, if you've coached quarterback before, if you've been an offensive coordinator, you know the game at such a different level. And Dan's ability to take his basically rocket science, or as Adam Gase apparently likes to say, scientific rockets, if you take that knowledge and then transfer it into being able to explain it in layman's terms to everyone else, I mean, it's fascinating. And Dan and I used to do film breakdowns of Sam. I used to do it with Bruce Arians before he started coaching again for the Bucs. And then I did it with Dan a couple of times, where I'd send him like clips of Sam and he would break it down for me. Just listening to him talk, it's such a fascinating way. And to watch his career grow, where literally you can't turn on ESPN and not see his face on there. It's really cool. And he's one of the best in the business. And all of us are significantly more intelligent having listened to him for those last 20 minutes or so. I mean, he really is great.
It's like the opposite of Billy Madison.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on to our picks before we wrap things up for this one. Connor, are you doing your picks live again?
I am, yeah. I'm sticking with it. I think I went 1 and 2 last week doing it, right? So
you're still in last place, so that's all that matters.
Thanks, Marissa. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So after a perfect 9-0 week collectively by us 2 weeks ago, we were 3-6 last week. So time to pick things up. I'll start things off, then Marissa, you can go. Connor can go last as he tries to figure it out. I am going to take the Browns -3.5 at the Giants. I think the Browns need to bounce back big time. They're going on the road, but the Giants, I still think from week to week, we really don't know what you're going to get. So I'll take the Browns -3.5. The Patriots +2.5 at Miami. This just feels like one of those games where, after losing last week, if the Patriots are going to hang on to any hope of the playoffs, they need this win at Miami. Now, of all the places in the AFC East where they've struggled kind of over the years, it's been at Miami. Even when the Dolphins have been bad, they've struggled down there. But for some reason, I think they come through with this one. And then finally, back on the Seahawks bandwagon that we've kind of ridden collectively, I think, as a group all season long. I'll take them -4 at Washington. So actually 3 road teams for me this week, 2 favorites and an underdog. Marissa?
So I'm going to go Bills -6 versus the Broncos. And that game is actually tomorrow. So we have some Saturday football this week, which should be pretty interesting. And then in the AFC South, the Titans and Colts are really fighting for that top spot in the division. So, and the Titans playing the Lions this week with no Matt Stafford. So I'm going to go Titans -10.5. And then I made these picks like 30 seconds ago as well. So my last pick is going to be 49ers -3 versus the Cowboys.
You guys had 20 minutes when Dan Orlovsky was talking and doing an interview that we did hours ago.
I had like the whole control set up here of playing that interview.
Yeah. You don't want to touch the computer.
Dan is a very busy man. So when we got him this morning super early, we, had to record the interview, and we've never really played a past interview on the pod before. So I had to make sure that it streamed all okay. Yeah,
breaking new ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
right. Especially wait till we get
so
that.
That's my defense for why my
wait till we get that new program Marissa's learning right now. We're gonna be able to have tickers. We're gonna have nameplates below us, special effects. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to make oh my goodness, I can't wait. And obviously I have nothing to do with it. It's all Marissa has to learn everything. Marissa has to put it into action.
I have no life. Like I really don't have a life, but like Connor really never wants me to sleep, just so everybody knows. But all right,
just
let's
like
hear
Dan
your
Orlovsky.
Last place, Connor.
God damn it. That's cruel. Hey, I won the league last year. So when we hand out our champions
last year. You're in last place.
I'm gonna get a
right
trophy.
now,
I'm
buddy.
gonna get us a trophy now, and we'll have like the new plate every year for our picks champion. Like I said, at least we got this going through till 2022, and as long as we don't burn out Marissa, we're gonna we'll have it even longer.
We're very close.
I said though, Marissa goes, we go. That's the rule. We're not doing the show without her.
We're making Marissa take a 2-week vacation when the season ends.
Yeah, it's probably going to be when this day I take my vacation will probably be the day that the Jets hire somebody or
someone's going to die. No, someone's going to die. It's going to be something.
Okay. That's dark.
Like, Marissa's going to be doing the podcast from her car again. We're like, hey, we're going to need you on a flight to Malibu. And we're like, hey,
no, I'm not going anywhere.
We need you to come back in.
I got a off season with Netflix and the couch and, just
that's
chilling.
Sometimes the best days off. That's the best day. I know Bree has those. Like every day after a 3-day shift, she's like, I'm doing a nothing day. And if the house isn't clean, you're dead. So my 3 picks I'm going to go with here is the first one I like a lot is Kansas. That was a mouth typo. Kansas City, not shitty, at the Saints, favored by 3. I know it's in New Orleans, but playing in New Orleans doesn't really matter when there's no fans in the stands. I think Drew Brees might play this week. I know that's what people are talking about. I don't really care. You talk about Pat Mahomes indoors on turf, take him in the points. I think Kansas City is going to win that one by well more than 3. I like that line a lot. Other one I like too is Arizona -6 at home against the Eagles. That line's probably a lot shorter because of the way that Jalen Hurts played last week. I'll be honest, like there's such a dramatic change in quarterback style from Carson Wentz to Jalen Hurts and the fact that there was no preseason film on Hurts and there was really only a couple plays a game leading into this one in Jalen Hurts that you really couldn't say like, this is what their offense is going to look like with them. You now have a full 4 quarters, a full 60 minutes of film on Jalen Hurts. The Cardinals are going to be able to build a defense now with a general idea of what they're going to get. So I think this is going to be a really big test. And also Hurts in the second half looked a lot different than Hurts in the first half. And I think that's going to favor Arizona, where they could win this one by 2 touchdowns because the Eagles just aren't a very good team. The other one I like a lot too is the Patriots given +1 on the road against the Dolphins.
I got +2.5. I'm willing to give you that if you want. I don't know where I saw that, but
it's probably early. The line's, it's probably flipping. A lot of people are probably going to the Patriots now, and the line's just changing a lot because that's what it is right now. It's +1. So I like the Patriots. I think that Bill Belichick's going to have something for Flores. I mean, he's the one who taught him everything he knows. So I think that's going to come back down. And also, Tua really hasn't looked that great. Like, I mean, they're winning games because they're basically a really well-coached and good defensive team. But at no point have the Dolphins been like, man, Tua looks great. Like, he'll make a couple good throws, but I mean, he looks like a rookie. He's not like Herbert. He's not like Joe Burrow with the Bengals. Like, Tua looks like a rookie. And I think the Patriots are going to expose him pretty good. So I'll take the Chiefs -3, Cardinals -6, and the Patriots +1.
All right, that is going to do it for us. We'll be back on Monday to recap the Jets' latest trip out west to take on the Rams. We'll see how that one goes. There is still time to get in on a great deal here at The Athletic. Go to theathletic.com/the Can't Wait podcast. Right now, you can still gift a subscription, get a subscription. Basically, you buy a subscription for somebody else, you get one for yourself for free. So if you're looking for a subscription, help us out, get somebody else one as well. Connor's on Twitter at Connor_J_Hughes. I'm at Tim M. McMaster, and Marissa is at Marissa_Morris. That's going to do it for us. Have a great weekend, everyone.